All right, let's see if we can make a video here to help people. So, because I get asked this question every freaking day, and I'm not annoyed at you people for asking. I get it, but I am tired of answering the damn questions. So, welcome to Dave's Man Cave. Here's a quick snapshot of TuneECU. Now, I am not connected to a bike. Why? Well, because I'm on my computer using an Android emulator because I get to use a 42-inch 4K screen and a keyboard and mouse to do all my map edits, which is way easier than sitting here doing this on a phone and pinching and zooming and all that shit. Also, at the moment, I don't have a Triumph. I haven't had a Triumph in over a year. I'm still doing this just to help people and grow the channel and because I don't see anybody else doing it. So, hey, I'll keep doing it for now and I'll probably have another Triumph at some point. That being said, here is what we've got. So I'm in BlueStacks. It's a free Android emulator that you can install to Windows. Unfortunately, they don't have one that works on the new Apple Silicon that I've seen on my MacBook. Nice, but it'd be easier to do a screen grab instead of using a camera here, and I could do a voiceover. But we'll make this work, all right? So now we got that out of the way. Go into the emulator, or if you're using it on a tablet, go into TuneECU. The first thing you want to do is go over your checkbox, do an app update, check and make sure you're up to date. If not, download the new APK file, install it, relaunch the application, recheck, make sure you are on the latest update. Now, the map that you're running is down here, 31043. If you go to map, and you go to informations, it will tell you what this is. So this is for a Street Triple RS ABS from this VIN range, production silencers. It's an all markets, so probably I made this for somebody in the UK or something. It gives you the specs, right? And so people say, well, hey, before I start editing and unlocking my ETV tables or something like that, I'll scroll down to what I'm talking about. Your ETV tables are electronic throttle valve. So you have a ride-by-wire throttle system. And so these are ignition tables. Here we go. That one. So what happens is your throttle is basically like a rheostat. It's a variable resistor. You twist it a certain amount, it changes the resistance. The ECU reads that voltage or resistance or whatever it's looking for and says, okay, you're twisting at 40%. It then looks to see what mode you're in. Are you in rain mode? To where when you twist to 100% throttle or 60% throttle and down here it's only going to give you 28 because it's trying to soften that delivery. It's trying to make it tame and maintain traction and be safe in low traction conditions. And then you go to ETV2 and you give it that same 60% throttle, now it's giving you a bit more. When you go to sport mode, you give it 60% throttle, now it's actually going to give you, well, in this case I've modified these tables to go linear, but the point is the ECU doesn't have a cable, a physical cable that when you twist the throttle, that cable goes to the throttle bodies and it physically opens them to whatever it opens it to. You're turning a dial, like a dial on a stereo, and the ECU sees that and says, all right, well, based on the road you're in and RPMs and how we program this, 60% throttle means you're actually going to get 40 or whatever. And so you can get rid of restrictions and do things without even touching the fueling. A lot of the bikes are actually held back where when you give it 100% throttle, like the R models, the 765R models, you give it 100%, it only gives you 100% up to about here where my mouse is circling at 6,500, and then it cuts back to 80. That's why your R doesn't make as much power as the RS. It's not because of the tune. It's not because of the cam profile. It's not because of any other restrictions other than this. You're twisting the throttle to 100%. If you paid the extra money for the RS model, Triumph gives you full power. If you only bought the R model and saved $2,000 and you twist it to 100%, it goes, we're going to give you 80. We're only going to give you 80. And that's what chops the 10 horsepower off the top to make the performance difference. Now, there's other differences in the dash and suspension and stuff. As far as the power output, those motors are the same. I could lay the fuel and ignition tables for the R and the RS over each other, and they are identical. The only difference in the motor and the performance are these electronic throttle valve tables. So just as a recap for why we have these discussions. And then you can modify these tables so that when I'm in sport mode, see how restrictive it is here in road mode? You give it 9% throttle, but you get 2.5 down here, and it'll slowly work its way up through the RPMs. If you give it 30% throttle, it's like 18%, and maybe you'll get up towards 30 up here. And then I go in and I'm like, keep it kind of soft down here, because when you're just cruising around, you don't want to really snatchy, like you touch the throttle and it lunges. You want to keep it smooth. We'll increase it a little bit. But by the time you're getting out here around 20-ish, 25%, certainly by 30, it's linear. Whatever you snap the throttle to, if you go to 80%, it will deliver 80% every time. And that's what you feel. It's no longer being restricted. You're not going for 80 and it gives you 50. You go to 80, it gives you 80. And without even changing the tune or doing anything else to the bike, you transform how that bike feels. It's what Triumph is already doing between rain mode and street or sport. You ride it in rain mode and you go into sport mode and it feels like a different bike. Well, when sport is still restricted, sport is never really giving you full power. Sport is not, it may be the highest level of what they offer, but it's not the highest level of what you can get. When you go linear above 30%, it's like sport plus plus. Okay? Now that we got that out of the way, people always ask, how do I go in and get my stock map so that I can make these edits, but also that, I want a backup copy in case I got to revert back to stock for some reason. There used to be a box drive that you could go to, and I guess the links have all expired, that the writers of TuneECU would maintain. That has gone away. Here is the point of this, and this is how you get your stock map. If they offer it, keep in mind, some of the newest Euro 5 Plus models, like the 2024 and 2025 models, some of them, the ECUs are encrypted and they've not been able to break the encryption keys yet. So you may not be able to get the base map and make those changes. You got to kind of stay on top of it, and sometimes it takes a month or two, sometimes it takes a year or more. And at some point, they're going to figure out how to encrypt these things to the extent that you can't modify it. Manufacturers are under these huge penalties and fines for allowing their bikes to be easily made to bypass all the emissions requirements in the European Union. So they're having to crack down on this. So assuming that there is a map for your bike, here's how you get it. Go to map, go to open, and then forget, this is just other maps that I have. Go down here, this button right here, download. This accesses a different box drive where I don't have the link directly. And so you pick your brand, you go to Triumph, then you go in and find what model bike you have, and you say, I've got a Speed Triple, or I've got this or that. So we'll go, where's a Speed Triple 1200 RS? So we'll go in there. Now you can click on this, and they do keep this fairly up to date, that has the mapping. A lot of times it's broken down. Let's pick a different one, bobbers. Well, do you have a bobber black? Do you have a THC? If you have a bobber black, what's your VIN range? And this is the last 6 digits. And you can say, well, I have 900, whatever. It's higher than this, but lower than this. You would go into that folder, and then you'll see all the different maps that are offered. Click on each one. It will tell you what it is. This is for this VIN range. It's for this silencer. It's the model with cruise control versus without. It's what country it's in. If it's an E2 version, sometimes they'll have here. I think it's the E2 license in the UK where it's a lower power. That's another thing. If you bought an A2 license, if you bought an A2 bike, it's not a less powerful motor. It's not even a different tune. They're using those ETV tables to, when you give it full throttle and only gives you 40%, whatever it is, to limit the horsepower to 45. You can turn your A2 model into the full model. So if you got a Street Triple, if you've got a Triton 660 or something like that, you can actually turn your A2 license model into the full one, give it full power for free. All you need is the Bluetooth adapter. But in any case, you go through and you figure out, if you hit cancel, it dumps you back at this menu. You say, no, I need the US model. Okay, there's the US model. Or maybe I need, this particular model because I'm in Australia, New Zealand, Indonesia. I'll give you an example. We'll go back here to the Street Triple R of what we're talking about. So let's see, Street Triple. Sometimes they're in here. It'll say A2. Let's go into a Street Triple R. Okay, they've only got one map for that one. A 660 VIN. That one's only got 2. What's that one? The point is, when you find what you want, you got to look through the descriptions or go down to the bottom and download that PDF, and it'll tell you the map number. So if I just go in and grab any one here and say, okay, I want this one. This is for, let's see, Street Triple RS. It's for 2020 model year. It's for this VIN range. It's for these countries. Okay, you hit download. It's going to download, and then you should see that that map number right there. Okay, that's your map number. So if they have it in the database, if they've cracked the ECU and downloaded it, you'll be able to go through, get the PDF, go find out what map is your map for your country, your model, your country, and your final 6-digit VIN range. Go figure out which one is yours, download it, and then you can go and check it at any time by hitting informations, and it'll tell you, there's your map number. The 01 is the revision. They only had one revision for this one. This is all your information. At this point, if you want, you can now save that, and you haven't made any changes. You go in and just save it, and now you have a copy. In fact, you could save it, and you can even change the name, and you can go ahead and change it to whatever, and call it my stock map. Type that in and go ahead and hit save. And then when you're in here, this is where you can then go in and you can go make those changes. So what bike did I grab? Was it a 765 or something? We'll see if this one's restricted. ETV1, ETV2. No, that one's giving you full power across the board. At least up here. Down here, it's way held back, but you can go in and make your changes. So there's other videos on how to do edits and what changes you might want to make. And obviously a dyno is the best way to do it, but a lot of times you can get it good enough to where you've leaned things out because you did an air filter and you remove the cat and put a free-flowing exhaust on it, and it's gonna run lean. Any dealer or anybody that tells you, oh no, it's self-learning, just do the 12-minute thing and it figures it out, is either lying or they are clueless. Sorry, if you're one of those people, there's no other way to put it. There is no self-learning, self-tuning bike made by Triumph or anybody else for street bikes. They have narrowband sensors that can make very little changes, only if it's within this little range. You can tell if it's out of range or not. It's extremely limited, and it's typically down here around idle and the low cruising range. Anything out here that's off and running lean is going to stay lean. And if it's really lean, you could be doing damage to your motor. Anybody that tells you, oh yeah, just let it warm up for 12 minutes and don't touch it and it'll just retune itself, wrong. Absolutely wrong. It's been debunked and proven to be false hundreds of times over the last 10 years. There is no self-tuning Triumph. There's Rapid Bike Evo, and there's aftermarket solutions with a wideband sensor that you can set target AFRs, and then it'll read what you're doing as you ride it around town and stuff, and then you can go back and look at the changes that it suggests, and then you can apply those changes. That's different. Stock bike will never self-tune. Just doesn't do it. Don't argue with me about it. It's just, people still want to. But anyway, that's how you get your stock map. You go in, map, open, and you hit download. And I've already into the menus, but you just select Triumph and go through the menus and find your model, figure out what VIN range you have, go in and figure out which ones. Oh, that's for Brazil. That's not the one I want. Okay, this one is for Brazil and India. Go find the one, Thailand, wherever you happen to be, and go find your map and hit download, and that's how you get it. Save off a copy, and then call it base map. Do not overwrite something so you always have that. And then when you open that, you can make all your changes, and when you save it, give it a new name. So you have the base map you saved plus the one that you're editing and monkeying around with as you're trying to tune the bike. That is how you do it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get 1,000 questions anyway, but I'm hoping this answers them all. This is why this video took longer, because I wanted to give some context. But there you go, folks. Tune away, enjoy, be safe.